Hey, what's up, everybody? Isaac here, Civil Engineering Academy. Still in the process of moving. Sorry if you hear any weird noises or audio is funky. It's just the nature of things. So we're getting it done. It just takes time. But I'm excited today. Got another great guest for us, Civil Engineering Academy podcast. I bring on Grant Junghans. He is a professional engineer, now a professional engineer in 2 states. He recently got his PE license, and he is a member of our course. So I wanted to bring him on because he has a unique situation. Maybe it's not too unique, but he went through the process of changing his exam topic for his depth exam. So first he took construction was his depth topic of choice, and then he switched his mindset and he went after water resources, and he was able to get that thing done. It did take him 3 tries, but he didn't know what was going on there. And so I wanted to pick his brain and figure out what was going on, the mindset of switching exams, the process that he went through, how the course helped him in that journey, and really just kind of get all the nuts and bolts behind all of that. Because there's many out there that may be considering switching exams if they haven't gotten over the hump of passing this thing too. So wanted to find out what was going on. So Grant Junghans comes in and shares his wisdom with us. I think you're going to enjoy this episode. If you're preparing for your PE exam, there's good tips in here as well. And it's just a fun conversation. So without further ado, let me help you, and we'll get to Grant right after this. All right, Grant, we're rocking and rolling. Thanks for joining me today on the Civil Engineering Academy podcast. I appreciate you doing this with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely excited to be here. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. I always love to start these out just kind of for our audience to get to know you a little better. Maybe dive into how you found yourself into this world of civil engineering, and what are you doing today in that world?
Sure. So I think it started way back when I was a little boy, honestly. When I was little, I used to love to play in the dirt and the ditches back in our backyard. I used to just love to watch the water rush. I make my own little lakes and stuff, and kind of fast forwarding a little bit. As I got into high school, I was good at math too growing up, so I started to take some like pre-engineering classes, and I had that resource available to me as far as like a career center for high school. And then I really enjoyed those pre-engineering classes, so I decided to go ahead and pursue that in college. And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do at first, but eventually I found civil engineering. And so I decided to take that route. And then fast forward a little bit more to today. I'm a civil engineer, and I do land development projects, so like subdivisions, grading plans for parking lots, some smaller site disturbance plans. And so just, I guess, through the process, and also my parents were a big role in urging me to pursue those passions, and I just decided to go along with their advice, and I appreciated the whole journey. It's been a tough one, but it's also been very rewarding.
Yeah, it's a challenging journey for sure. When you're going through school, there's a lot of coursework you got to do. When you're in, I don't know if did you have to pass the FE while you were in school, or was that something you did after?
I didn't have to pass it, but you had to at least take it. So I took it in school, and I passed that one the first time.
That's awesome.
But all you have to do, at least all I had to do, was just take it. So in order to pass, or in order to graduate, I should say.
It's so interesting to hear what different schools do for that FE exam component. I've interviewed people on this very podcast that didn't have to take it at all to graduate, and so they take it well after they're done. I went to a school where it was required to pass it to even graduate. So you had to pass your FE to get your certificate at the end of your school journey. And a lot of people would stress about that, I myself included. And so that's awesome that you just had to take it and show you did it. And you got it done, right?
Yes. I was very grateful for that. I didn't feel great after I took it, but I'm very grateful I passed it.
That's so cool. So land development, what got you going into land development versus, I guess, any other specific area of civil engineering? Was there a class or something that inspired you to head that way? Is there more economic opportunity in that direction? What kind of got you going there?
Yeah. So for the first couple of years, right out of college, I did more of like soil reclamation, so more on the environmental side. And that was more of a field-based job. So I decided, it was great. I loved to be out in the field. I loved it to be outside working with the contractors. But I also wanted to kind of feel out the side of design as well. And then I was also looking to move to a different area in the country. So I had some friends in the North Idaho area here where I am, and I decided to look at job opportunities, and land development was one that opened up, and I felt great opportunities for design experience, and so I decided to pursue that.
Okay, awesome. Well, I want to dedicate a big part of the show to going through your own PE journey, which is always a challenge for any civil engineer, and everybody's journey is different. I myself, as a repeat taker, struggled, which is kind of why I started this whole civil engineering academy anyway, to help the next person, because that whole thing just kind of sucked really bad. So wanted to help other people go through that, hopefully a little less painfully. But tell me about your exam prep. How much, I guess we'll start with like, what was the beginning of the journey like for you? What topic did you choose, and how many hours did you put into studying?
Yeah. So when I first started, first of all, I chose the construction exam for the debt. And for those of you watching too, I've taken the exam 3 times now, but I started with the construction. And I probably could have put in more time originally. I think I probably did, I don't know, maybe 1 to 2 hours, maybe 3 times a week during the week, and then maybe 3 hours on the weekend or something. And that lasted on a period of, I'd say, 3 to 4 months. So I just continuously did that to start out. And I didn't have any, I didn't go through a course the first time either. And so I was just kind of blindly studying. I thought, I passed the FE the first time. It can't be that hard. But little did I know. And then I stumbled upon the Civil Engineering Academy for the second time around, and I chose to do the construction exam as well for the second time. And I felt just going through the course put me in a much better direction. Even though I didn't pass the construction the second time, much better direction as far as like overall studying on the breadth and depth portions. I just definitely felt a lot better, and I definitely did a lot better on the exam. The depth construction was very challenging for me, so I decided to switch and go to water resources for the third time around, and we can talk more about that later too. But I think for the 2 last times that I took it, for both the construction and water resources, I only studied about 2 or 3 months, but I studied a lot more. I was studying almost every day after work, probably 1 to 3 hours a night. And on the weekends, I'd probably put in maybe 4 to 5 hours over the weekend. So still had a little bit of life on the weekend, but I dedicated some solid time the last 2 times.
Did you have to get any support on board with that? Any family, any friends that you had to put the hammer down on, or do you feel like you were able to navigate that a little bit and still maintain family and social life?
I was still able to maintain some family and social life, but my wife was probably one of my biggest assets. She was there. She was making food. She was supporting me the whole way. If I was like, oh, maybe I can take some time off this weekend or study just a little bit less to go do this, she's like, are you sure you should do that? Are you sure you shouldn't be studying? So I definitely give credit to her. She made sure I cracked down and got it done. Yes.
Who is your conscience?
Yeah.
Well, there's quite a bit to unpack here with your journey that I would love to ask. The first thing I think is a lot of people take construction thinking it's probably the best fit for them because maybe they don't specialize in one thing, and construction covers a whole bunch of things. But it's a difficult exam. There's a lot of codes and standards that are required. They can virtually ask anything about anything. So what was the mindset to switch exams? Was that difficult? Could you describe that transition from construction to water resources?
Yeah. So originally, and kind of like you're saying, I went into construction thinking, oh, it is broad, but since I had almost almost 3 years of construction experience, even though it was kind of on the environmental side, I thought, oh, that'd be a pretty good fit for me. And I probably could have paid a little bit more attention on the breakdown. That's very important when you're looking at the breakdown of the depth exams. Definitely look at the breakdown. Make sure you're comfortable with all that material, maybe even before you sign up for a specific exam. But for me, originally I was thinking, oh, construction, I should be able to do that just fine. And I did notice the pass rates were lower than some of the others for construction versus water resources, transportation, and some of the others. But so having taken the construction 2 times, both times it was very challenging for me on the depth portion. And like you were saying, there's a lot of code, a lot of like OSHA lookup problems, not things that, in my opinion, are real easy to study for. It's kind of more like in the moment, you have to be able to look up those questions and that information. And that was pretty challenging. Just kind of being put on the spot right there in the moment instead of having knowledge of working out problems per se. So, and I think you were asking about me switching, how I switched.
Yeah. What was that like? I know, in the background of all this, we were having conversations through email, I think, about this decision. So I just was curious, what was the mindset? Because there are many people going through this same experience right now that are saying, they didn't pass it 2-3 times. Should I switch to? And so I'm curious, what was the mindset and how did you do that? And how difficult was it to switch and study for?
Sure. Yeah. So I think one of the big things about my switch was just the networking and talking to various people. Networking is big when you're, talking to colleagues and coworkers and things like that who are in your same shoes or either have been. And I think that's very big. So I just felt defeated having taken the construction exam 2 times and having failed it 2 times. I was like, there's got to be something else. I wonder if, even though I know the construction exam and kind of what the feel is for it, there's got to be something a little bit better for me, and it's not for everybody. But so one thing I had noticed on the construction exams is on the breadth. I think I got 100% or almost 100%. They don't give you the exact breakdown, but on the water resources portions. And that's something I really enjoy too. So, I started talking to people, and there was one engineer that I met at an event, and just telling him my situation with construction versus how I did with the water resources portion. And he was like, oh, I did something similar. He took the construction, I think, once and then failed that one and then switched to water resources. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I asked him some more questions about it. And in general, he was telling me that the water resources isn't easy. None of them are easy. But they're more working out problems instead of like lookup problems. And if you know how to do the problems, they're a little less tricky. And I put that in quotations because none of these exams are easy. So that got my mind thinking, what scared me initially was the environmental portion, because I wasn't real strong on that. The water resources, sure, I can do that all day. And that's one of the reasons why I was hesitant at first, even the first time taking construction. Water resources was in the back of my mind, but I was like, I'll just do construction. I feel like I know that better. But actually the environmental for me wasn't too bad. And so I decided to do water resources, and I'm sure glad I did.
That's awesome. Yeah, you had success with it, which is awesome. So congratulations. Having gone through the exam a couple times, what tips or advice would you give to somebody finding themselves having to repeat the exam? What kept you motivated to keep going? Do you have any tips for them?
Yes. The first time I took it and failed it, it was very tough. It was devastating. I wouldn't say failing gets easier as you go, but once you fail and then pick yourself back up and keep going, I decided to take the exam again. It was about a year later, so I waited quite a while. But the motivation was just once you get your PE license, it just opens so many more doors in the career and just what you can do and where you can go. And I think in the back of my mind, that was definitely a huge motivator for me, just keeping the end goal in sight. Because I'm sure people have heard, at first you don't succeed, try again. Very true. You will succeed eventually if you are dead set on it and you have your mindset to it. And just the career opportunities and how I could further be a greater asset to my community and help out. I think that's definitely one of the things that drove me. And then, of course, providing, even financially for my family as well.
Right.
Because usually it comes with a big pay raise too.
Yep. All big benefits of getting that PE. So if you find yourself struggling, definitely, jump through the hoops. You can keep going and do this. This is coming from 2 repeat takers.
Yes.
So you jumped into our course. I wanted to dive into that a little bit. So you're a member of our Ultimate Review course. I'm just curious what you found as the biggest thing you liked about the course, or what would you say to people that may be interested in?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the course. I think the biggest thing for me is, and I think we talked about it earlier, but I'm a visual learner. And so just going through all the course material, it's a lot to come back to after you've been out of school for a few years, and just getting back into it and having that visual aid as far as like practice problems. Basically, the practice problems was huge for me. Just seeing those problems worked out, getting my mind back into that mindset. For me, that was huge, and that's what helped me probably the most. And just all the different resources for videos on all different subjects.
That's awesome. I'm curious, in your prep, how did you handle taking practice exams? What tips would you have around people looking at taking those?
Yeah, for me, I didn't take any practice exams until I was comfortable working out problems, because I wanted to make sure it was more of a timed practice exam. Even if I could only do 10 problems here or there, I wanted to do it in, X amount of time, maybe half an hour to do 10 problems. So at first I just did a bunch of practice problems, got familiar with those again. And then I took 1 or 2, I think, full exams practice exams. And then I would time myself on those, and made sure, I allotted enough time for both the breadth and depth sections, similar to how how it would be on the actual exam on exam day. So that's kind of how I went about starting that. Then, of course, I made sure I scored myself and everything to make sure that I was in the ballpark of passing.
That's good to know. I'm curious also for your own exam prep, or when you took the exam, was there any surprises that caught you off guard that you were like, whoa, especially when you were taking the water resources exam, because that's the one you passed. But was there any surprises that maybe others should know about as they're preparing for this?
That's a good question. Surprises. I think the more, so for me, there wasn't too many big surprises, honestly. There was more surprises on the construction just because you don't really know what they're going to ask. It's such a vast, it's just so vast. They can ask you pretty much anything. But the water resources, there wasn't too many surprises, and that's because I did so many practice problems and 2 practice exams, and that makes all the difference. I've taken the exam as a whole, and the construction twice and water resources once. So I've basically been doing practice problems for a couple of years off and on. So yeah, there's less surprises the more practice problems you do, I would say.
What would you say to someone that asks you, is there a ton of theory problems on the exam, and how do I prepare for those?
Good question. The theory for me are more challenging because, they might change one word here or there. I would say the water resources had much less theory questions than the construction. The water resources was more of working out problems, pretty complicated. They do take time, but it was like, if you're comfortable with the process, it was much more doable. As far as your question on what I thought for the theory questions, yeah, they're hard to study for. I will say that. Again, I think it comes down to practice problems, because there are theory practice problems that you can do too. There's certain resources you can find. If you enjoy reading, the more you read, the better that you'll be when the theory questions come. And even reading the study material as well. The PE reference handbook, or I know they're changing it soon, so I don't know exactly what that looks like now, but
yeah, the theory stuff always catches people off guards. And there's always quite a few questions on there, but we do offer a lot of theory questions throughout the course that we have, and we try to give people an open mindset, like, hey, these are coming at you, so here's a glimpse of what they can ask, but they're never going to ask the exact same questions unless something happened that I don't know about. Yeah, people are always taken off guard about those theory questions. And kind of the big kicker with that is, like, the reference handbook is good for equations and figures, right? But it's not teaching you that material. It's just a reference handbook. So that's why I still think it's important to have someone that can help you navigate that a little bit. Even the old civil engineering reference manual, at least it's teaching you stuff. Even though the equations may not be exactly the way they look in, say, the new reference handbook, but they still can teach you things. So that's just good advice overall on what you experienced as you took the exam. Another question I had for you is if you experienced much of these alternative item type questions, did those come up at all?
Alternative items.
Fill in the blank, drag and drop, any of that.
There were, I'm trying to think, there were a few, maybe 1 or 2 per exam, so not a whole lot. I think, if I remember correctly, the construction might have had maybe 2 throughout its exam, and the water resources had maybe 1. And that's just from my experience over a sample of 3 exams, but not a whole lot. Most of them are multiple choice from my experience.
Okay, good to know. Well, this has been awesome, Grant. Thanks for sharing this journey of your own PE. Do you have other tips for anybody that may be considering changing their mind about a different exam?
I would just say, definitely look at, if you're thinking about changing, definitely look at the breakdown of the exam that you might want to switch to, and make sure you're comfortable with all those new topics, more of the depth portion of the topics. And also, it's always good to network, to talk to colleagues, coworkers, people who are either in the same shoes or who have done it before, and get a feel for it, because that's one thing that helped me switch, was talk to other people, other engineers. So I would definitely say those couple of things might be very helpful.
Cool. Awesome, Grant. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. If anyone wanted to consider Civil Engineering Academy, you can go find us at civilengineeringacademy.com. You go to courses, you can go find an FE course or a PE course. We're here to help you on this journey. We try to be very supportive. Grant, did you feel supported in our course, or were you on an island?
No, I felt very supported, and I appreciated the Facebook page too. Everybody's collaboration on there was helpful.
Yeah, as part of the course, we do offer a private Facebook community. It's pretty active, I think, for people that are going to this exam experience. And people jump on there to celebrate their wins. If they had a loss, we get in there and help buoy them up too. So just a wide range of people in there. So I wanted to bring you on and talk about your experience of switching exams. So that's I wanted to really hear that, because people go through that decision process, I think, all the time. So thank you for sharing your thoughts. If anybody wanted to reach out to you, Grant, is there a good way for anyone to contact you?
Sure. Yeah. You're free to email me at grantsjunghans@gmail.com. That's just my name, Grant S. Junghans @gmail.com. I'd be happy to answer any questions, or do the best I can to help you along there. So yeah, feel free to reach out.
Sounds good. Grant, thanks for jumping on doing this with me.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, we'll see you.
All right, bye.